As she smelled the perfume on her hand, the woman instantly felt like she had shed hundreds of pounds, going from 900 pounds to just 90. Shocked by the transformation, she stared at her reflection in the mirror, recalling how moments ago she had been an overweight version of herself. Now she looked like the person she had been 20 years ago. Her clothes slid off due to the rapid weight loss. This woman, once a beautiful young model named Yi Rin, had ballooned from 90 to 900 pounds after marriage and childbirth. She was often the subject of stares, and her husband despised her for being overweight and unattractive, even cheating on her in front of her. In her deep despair, Jae-hee decided to take her husband down with her. She set up traps around the house and signed divorce papers. When her husband returned home, everything would be in place. But that was all in her mind. As she was about to put her plan into action and end her life, she heard the doorbell ring. She hung in the air, struggling, when suddenly the ceiling collapsed under her weight. The delivery man outside continued ringing the doorbell, but Yi Rin shouted that she didn't need it. What use was a delivery to someone about to die? Yet the delivery man seemed to have something in mind. Yi Rin returned to her room to continue her suicide attempt, only to see the delivery man appear outside her window. Yi Rin was completely stunned. Reluctantly, she accepted the package from the delivery man, unsure of what might happen next. But the strange thing was, she hadn't ordered any delivery. She brushed it aside, focusing on her plan to commit suicide. Swallowing sleeping pills one after another, her curiosity got the better of her, and she decided to open the package. Inside, she found a bottle of perfume. Intrigued, she applied a few drops to her hand. Suddenly, dark clouds gathered in the sky, lightning flashed, and she was hit by intense stomach pain before collapsing. When she woke up, she realized she had transformed from a 900-pound woman into a stunning 90-pound beauty. It felt like a dream. To check if it was real, she banged her head against the wall, feeling the pain and confirming it wasn't a fantasy. Shocked but fascinated by her new body, she admired her slender figure, something she hadn't seen in years, given her former size. Just then, her husband messaged her, asking if she had signed the divorce papers and letting her know he'd be home in 10 minutes. Panicking, Yi Rin quickly hid the sleeping pills and dismantled the traps she had set. She knew she needed to figure out the cause of her sudden transformation. Yi Rin packed her things, left a note for her daughter saying she'd be gone for a few days, and headed out. Passing by a clothing store, she noticed a beautiful dress, something she would have never considered before. She decided to try it on, but accidentally tore the expensive dress, something she couldn't afford to pay for. Yi Rin was forced to leave her ID as collateral after tearing the expensive dress in the store. However, when the staff looked at her ID and then back at Yi Rin, it was obvious that the person on the ID and Jae-hee didn't match. Yi Rin awkwardly explained that it was her mother's ID. Just then, a modeling agent walked in and instantly saw potential in Yi Rin, inviting her to participate in a runway show. This was Yi Rin's lifelong dream to become a professional model. Overwhelmed by excitement, she accepted the unexpected opportunity. Meanwhile, the male lead of the story is a top fashion designer and the owner of the modeling agency. However, he suffers from numerous phobias, such as a fear of seeing people with facial blemishes, which causes him to faint instantly. He also has several allergies and hallucinations triggered by dogs, relatives, and even certain foods, some of which could be life-threatening. Despite these challenges, he remains a top-tier designer. At one point, when a model accidentally ruins a dress for the runway, he calmly takes scissors and, with a few quick snips, creates a brand new design, earning applause from the crowd. As Yi Rin watches, she gets distracted and trips, falling to the ground. The designer approaches, but he's more concerned about the damaged dress than Yi Rin herself. His intense gaze seems to linger on her, but could it be possible that he's interested in her? It seems unlikely. The man urges Yi Rin to leave quickly, and he also makes his escape. At the fashion show, a model accidentally falls and is rushed to the hospital, leaving no backup model. The team thinks of Yi Rin and invites her to step in, even giving her a makeover. With her previous modeling experience from 20 years ago, Yi Rin handles it with ease, and the boss is pleased. However, during the final walk on the runway, Yi Rin suddenly collapses. Turns out she had taken too many sleeping pills and fell asleep on stage. The boss is left speechless. When Yi Rin returns home, ready to confess everything to her daughter, she finds her husband has brought relatives home, and despite her daughter's protests, Yi Rin is left homeless. She ends up sleeping on a park bench, cursing her husband. The next day, an elderly woman collecting trash in the park finds Yi Rin, startled by her loud snoring. The woman tries to wake Yi Rin, but her large, heavy body makes it difficult to get up. She wakes up and finds herself back at 900 pounds, thinking it was all just a dream. Yi Rin begins to question whether the fashion show from the previous day was also a dream. She quickly checks her phone and realizes everything really did happen, sending her into a frenzy. Now back to her overweight self, she wishes she had died the previous day. Confused by the transformation, she suspects the perfume may be responsible. Rushing to a public restroom, Yi-Rin takes out the perfume and applies 2 drops to her wrist. Suddenly, a purple mist surrounds her, and the lights go out. Thunder roars outside, and as the lights come back on, Yi-Rin emerges from the bathroom once again in her 90-pound form. Staring at her reflection, she realizes it's the magic of the perfume. Determined to pursue her dream of becoming a model again, Yi-Rin heads to the modeling agency but is rejected. The boss, Yi-Do, is upset because Yi-Rin fell asleep on stage the previous day, ruining the Fashion Week finale. Undeterred, Yi-Rin takes drastic measures. She starts a live stream, threatening to take her own life unless Yi-Do hires her. Reluctantly, Yi-Do agrees and brings Jae-hee to his home. Since Yi-Do usually stays at hotels, his house is in disarray. Hoping to discourage her, Yi-Do tells Yi-Rin to clean the place. However, he doesn't realize that Yi-Rin, being a former housewife, is an expert at cleaning. In no time, she transforms the house, making it spotless. After an exhausting day of cleaning, Yi-Do falls asleep on a chair. While she's sleeping, her body begins to transform again. Her skin stretches as she starts gaining weight rapidly. Her pants split apart, and her clothes tear as she grows from a slim 90 pounds to a massive 900 pounds. Her bag is flung several meters away due to this sudden expansion. Just then, Yidao returns home. Yidao calls for Yi-Rin, but she's unaware of her massive size change. Suddenly, Yidao opens the door to the rooftop, waking Yi-Rin. She realizes she's back to her 900-pound self and panics as Yidao approaches. As he gets closer, his phone rings, allowing Yi-Rin a moment of relief, but she quickly notices the perfume is missing and starts frantically searching for it. Just as she's about to grab it, she accidentally hits a pillar, which catches Yidao's attention. He starts walking toward her, unaware of what's happening. The lights suddenly go out, and thunder roars across the sky for exactly 8.88 seconds. When the lights come back on, Yidao, visibly shaken, cautiously approaches the balcony, thinking some sort of monster had entered the house. He pulls back the sheets and finds Yi-Rin lying on the floor. Poking her with a stick, he initially thinks Yi-Rin is dead, but Yi-Rin opens her eyes, relieving Yidao. After Yi-Rin changes her clothes, Yidao questions her about why her clothes ripped apart earlier, suspecting something supernatural, like her being a werewolf. Yi-Rin awkwardly explains that she tore them while cleaning. They then head to a restaurant where Yidao, who is allergic to many ingredients, often dines because it's the only place that accommodates her needs. Yi-Rin, learning this, offers to cook various cuisines, Chinese, Japanese, Korean, and reveals she has certificates in both cooking and hairdressing. Impressed, Yidao lets Yi-Rin try. Later that night, Yidao gives Yi-Rin a list of all the foods and things he is allergic to, instructing her to memorize everything. As Yi-Rin lies in bed, staring at the mysterious perfume bottle, she wonders what it really is and who sent it to her. She recalls that both times she slept, she reverted to her 900-pound form by morning. She locks her door, determined to stay awake. As Yi-Rin starts cooking, her arms and legs suddenly swell, and her belly balloons out, ripping her apron. Realizing the transformation is happening again, she rushes to the bathroom just before Yidao discovers her. By morning, Yi-Rin is back to 900 pounds. She sets an alarm to monitor if sleep causes the perfume to lose its effect, but nothing makes sense. As she stares at the clock, she's left completely baffled. Yi-Rin reflects on her sudden transformation the previous day and realizes it happened at the same time. She concludes that the perfume's effect lasts exactly 12 hours. The next morning, Yi-Rin flawlessly recites a list of Yidao's dietary restrictions, shocking Yidao. Meanwhile, Yidao continues to feel uneasy about Yi-Rin's strange skills and has a private investigator look into her background. Later that night, Yi-Rin watches a video of herself at the fashion show and recalls her days as a model, youthful, beautiful, and with a perfect figure. But an accidental fall during training revealed she was pregnant, and her then boyfriend proposed to her in the hospital, promising eternal love. Trusting him, Yi-Rin gave up her modeling dreams. Now, with the magical perfume, Yi-Rin is determined to chase her dreams once more, even if just for a day. As long as she applies the perfume before the 12-hour mark, she won't revert to her 900-pound form. However, she realizes that the perfume will eventually run out. Calculating its total volume, she concludes that it will last her less than a year. To her horror, she notices a single word at the bottom of the bottle: death. Does this mean she'll die when the perfume runs out? Yi-rin brushes aside the fear, thinking that life at 900 pounds might as well be a death sentence anyway. Yi-rin is surprisingly happy to have a year left to live, thanks to the perfume. One day, while grocery shopping with Yi-dao, Yi-rin spots her husband with his mistress. Her husband notices her too, and in a panic, Yi-rin grabs hold of Yi-dao. Caught off guard, Yi-dao freezes, but then starts shouting, accusing Yi-rin of being an attacker. The commotion draws attention, and Yi-rin's husband runs over, asking where the attacker is. Yi-dao points in the direction where Yi-rin had fled. Back home, Yi-rin is kicked out of Yi-dao's place. Meanwhile, Yi-dao, shaken by the incident, obsessively brushes his teeth. When he opens the fridge, he finds a large stash of food Yi-rin had stocked, but has no idea what any of it is. Feeling conflicted, Yi-dao decides to give Jae-hee another chance and goes to find her, discovering her sleeping in a park. On their way back, Yi-dao suddenly spots a dog, one of his greatest fears. His phobia instantly kicks in, and he collapses. Luckily, Yi-rin rushes over, grabs the dog, and takes it away, allowing Yi-dao to breathe a sigh of relief. Once back home, Yi-dao jokingly tells Yi-rin that she's added one more item to her long list of phobias. Yi-dao's list of phobias now includes a fear of surprise kisses. The next day, while Yi-rin delivers a meal to Yi-dao, she unexpectedly sees her daughter. She quickly turns away, not wanting to be noticed. Her daughter, oblivious to Yi-rin's presence, holds a cup of instant noodles. Yi-rin, filled with guilt, leaves her own meal at her daughter's door. When the daughter sees the familiar food, she immediately realizes it was left by her mother, though she doesn't see her. At work, Yi-rin accidentally bumps into a man named Min Seok, who turns out to be a singer and someone Yi-rin has idolized for 5 years. She's shocked to be so close to him. Meanwhile, Yi-dao's assistant uncovers shocking information Yi-rin had been in a car accident the day before. So who is the Yi-rin staying in Yi-dao's home? The assistant rushes to the store where Yi-rin had left her ID. Meanwhile, Yi-rin smells the perfume again and quickly transforms from 900 pounds to 90 pounds, enabling her to successfully participate in a modeling audition. However, while changing outfits, she sees her daughter at the same audition. Fearing discovery, Yi-rin flees in a panic, leaving her phone behind. Her daughter, noticing how familiar the phone looks, compares it to her own and realizes they are identical. When she calls her mother's number, she hears Yi-rin's phone ring and instantly understands that the phone belongs to her mother. She rushes off to catch her. Yi-rin realizes she can't hide the truth any longer and plans to confess to her daughter. However, Yi-rin inadvertently distracts their daughter with a call, leading her to believe the ringtone was just a coincidence. Unbeknownst to them, the daughter doesn't recognize these women was Yi-rin 20 years ago. Later, Yi-rin visits the clothing store to retrieve her ID, only to be informed that someone has already paid for her items and taken the ID. Panicked, she fears her secret might be exposed. Returning home cautiously, Yi-rin suspects Yi-dao took her ID and hurriedly tries to explain, claiming it belongs to her mother. But Yi-dao denies any involvement, leaving Yi-rin confused about who helped her. Meanwhile, Yi-dao's secretary discovers Yi-rin's high school photo using the ID. He compares it with the ID and is shocked to see the resemblance. This leads him to remember the day he saw Yi-rin enter the bathroom but only witnessed the emergence of a 900-pound woman. Terrified by the revelation, he shudders at the implications. The next day, the secretary tentatively questions Yi-dao about the situation, hinting at the bizarre occurrences surrounding Yi-rin. Yi-dao's secretary asks if he notices anything strange about Yi-rin, to which Yi-dao excitedly agrees, mentioning that everything about Yi-rin seems odd. The secretary probes further, suggesting that Yi-rin might have suddenly changed size, but Yi-dao thinks she's lost her mind. They both dismiss the idea, and the secretary decides not to reveal Yi-rin's secret. The next day, at a team-building event for the modeling agency, as they reach the mountaintop, Yi-rin realizes that the perfume's effect is about to wear off, and to make matters worse, it's gone. As a storm brews, the group rushes to return, but Yi-rin stays behind to search for the perfume. Upon hearing this, Yi-do quickly puts on his gear and heads to the mountaintop, battling his fear of heights. At the cliff's edge, Yi-rin finds the perfume but can't reach it. She climbs a nearby tree in an attempt to grab it. Just then, Yi-do arrives, calling out warnings. However, the perfume loses its effect, and Yi-rin's body begins to expand back to 900 pounds. The branches crack under her weight, and in a tragic moment she slips and falls down the cliff, desperately struggling as she descends. Yi-do hears her screams and rushes to find her, but can't see her anywhere. Meanwhile, Yi-rin manages to use the perfume before Yi-do arrives, transforming back to 90 pounds. In the hospital, Yi Du is distraught but relieved to find Yilin safe, albeit with a sprained ligament. Yi Du learns from the doctor that Yi Rin health indicators are concerning, indicating a biological age of 62, which makes her prone to rapid weight gain. Determined to help her regain her health and pursue her modeling dreams, Yi Du resolves to take Yi Rin on a running regimen as part of her recovery. On the other side, the daughter looks at Yi Lin's photo, wondering why it appears in her home. Just then, her father comes home, sees the photo on the daughter's computer, and says it's her mother's old photo. Confused, she meets Yi Rin. The daughter, looking at the photos on her phone, asks Yi Rin, "Why do you and my mom look exactly alike? Are you twins?" It seems the daughter still hasn't realized that the woman in front of her is actually her mother. Yi Rin also doesn't reveal the truth to her daughter, perhaps not wanting to upset her, especially since she may soon leave this world. That evening, when Yi Dao returns home and sees Yi Rin drunkenly upset, he understands and takes her to the planetarium. Having lived with hundreds of phobias, Yi Dao has always led a reclusive life, afraid to take a step forward. Since Yi Rin entered his life, although he speaks harshly, but now his heart has begun to like Yi Rin. His lonely and peaceful life is gradually collapsing. One day, a model agent finds Yi Rin, wanting her to move out of Yi Dao's house. It turns out the agent is Yi Dao's ex-girlfriend, and her goal is to rekindle their past romance. Yi Rin feels extremely conflicted. She goes to the bathroom and looks at herself in the mirror, realizing that her current appearance cannot be maintained forever. The agent and Yi Dao are a perfect match. A few months later, she might leave this world. That evening, when Yi Lin is about to resign, she hears Yi Dao urgently picking up a baseball bat, searching for signs of a thief. When she arrives at the cloakroom, she sees a suspicious man. She cautiously approaches, ready to strike, only to find it's Yi Dao. It turns out he deliberately made a mess in the house because he saw Yi Rin with another man and became jealous. He purposely created a scene, claiming Yi Rin's room wasn't cleaned properly and that she was out all day. Yi Rin, infuriated, decides to resign and move out, fulfilling her promise to the agent. Yi Rin is about to explain, but she remembers she promised Min Seok to pretend to be in a relationship for 5 months and signed a confidentiality agreement. She can only admit to what Yi Dao said. Yi Dao can only smile bitterly and pulls out Yi Lin's employment contract, saying if she dares to resign, he will sue her in court. It turns out when they signed the contract, Yi Rin didn't carefully check the contract, which stated that breaching it would require compensation for damages. She looked at the 2 contracts in her hand, feeling a bit overwhelmed. The next day, Yi Ri showed the contract to the agent, saying that she couldn't resign for now. The agent asked if she was dating Min Seok, to which Yi Rin could only confirm. This reassured the agent, and to validate their relationship, the company decided to let them start dating publicly, pretending to be sweet together to promote to fans. Yi Dao secretly followed them, watching the couple show affection. He felt a surge of frustration and was about to intervene and take Yi Rin away when he was struck by complex emotions. He didn't understand why seeing Yi Rin with another man made him so unhappy. Meanwhile, Yi Rin's daughter saw the news and didn't know whether to congratulate or envy her. It seemed she also liked Min Seok. Yi Rin's husband also sees the news. To make matters worse, Yi Rin found out that Yi Dao was on a business trip with a female model who intended to take advantage of the situation to get closer to Yi Dao. Back home, Yi Rin no longer needed the weight loss perfume, saving every drop. As she passed by a mirror, she glanced at her reflection, noticing a slight change in her appearance. It seemed she had become very confident. She lay on the sofa watching Yi Dao on TV and thought he looked pretty handsome. That evening, a female model entered Yi Dao's room. She took out a glass bottle, revealing that she had gathered information from Yi Rin before coming. She learned that Yi Dao would sleep like a log if he had just a drop of the drink. She poured the alcohol into a beverage, and Yi Dao didn't notice a thing. A few minutes later, Yi Dao was completely out of it. The female model began her performance, removing her outer clothing and slowly approaching him. The next morning, when Yi Dao woke up, he found himself completely exposed. He started recalling what happened the night before and, without following the usual protocols, directly dragged the female model, threatening to take her to the hospital for a checkup. He said if it wasn't real, he would report her for rape. The female model panicked, reminding him that she was a star. Meanwhile, still affected by the alcohol, Yi Dao began to hallucinate. The model, seeing his state, quickly tried to escape, but Yi Dao collapsed on the ground. He called Yi Rin for help, expressing his fear. Yi Rin hurried to bring the perfume and grabbed the car keys, racing down the road at full speed to care for Yi Dao. In his dazed state, Yi Dao thought he saw Yi Rin. However, when he woke up again, he realized it was actually his agent. He eagerly asked if Yi Rin had been there, but the agent said no. In reality, Yi Rin was the first to arrive and took care of Yi Dao before calling the agent. She drove home, feeling happy that Yi Dao was the first to think of her. However, Yi Rin knew deep down that a relationship with Yu Dao was impossible. That same day, her fake relationship with Min Siak was also shattered when he confessed to her. At that moment, Yi Dao happened to see this scene from upstairs, feeling increasingly uneasy as he watched them grow closer. He wished he could rush down and confront Min Siak. Meanwhile, Yi Rin slowly closed her eyes, overwhelmed by Min Siak's confession. His heart ached as he watched the woman he loved kiss someone else. Just as they leaned in closer, the next moment was a result of Yu Dao's jealousy, which could be terrifying. The next day, while having lunch with Min Siok, he started confessing again, asking Yi Rin to be his real girlfriend. Although Min Siok was her idol for many years, to Yi Rin he still seemed like a child who didn't understand what love truly was. After their goodbye, Yi Rin encountered her daughter and noticed bruises on her face. When Yi Rin asked what happened, her daughter said it was from an argument with her father. Yi Rin was furious after learning that her daughter was hurt by her father's negligence. The fact that she hadn't returned home in days and had harmed her own daughter made Yi Rin feel guilty for not protecting her. That day, the modeling agency issued a notice that in 4 months, the World Fashion Week would take place, presenting a great opportunity to become a top model. However, only 2 spots were available, and starting next week, they would need to impress 20 designers to gain more recognition and earn the chance to walk the runway. When Yu Dao returned home that evening, he found a gift from Min Siak for Yi Rin. He sneakily opened the box to discover a pair of high heels. After reading the note, he threw it on the ground along with the shoes, trampling them in anger, consumed by jealousy. Feeling extremely jealous, he entered the living room, where Yi Dao noticed Yi Rin's phone ringing. Yi Rin dismissed it, saying it was likely just a spam message. Yi Dao became anxious, realizing he wanted to sneak a peek at Yi Rin's phone password when she unlocked it. After getting the password, he convicted a plan to use pumpkin pie as an excuse to ask Yi Rin to go buy some. With her phone in hand, he returned to his room and began chatting with Min Siok, impersonating Yi Rin to discourage him from pursuing her and to stop sending gifts. Min Siok, oblivious, expressed his determination to make her his true girlfriend. Yi Dao sensed something significant behind his words and decided to ask her secretary to investigate the true nature of Min Siok and Yi Rin's relationship. The horror of a woman's outburst is evident as she seems to breathe fire through her nostrils, shocking everyone around her. It turns out Yi Rin has transformed back to her 900-pound self, unleashing a flurry of kicks and punches on her husband, berating him for finding a mistress and for mistreating their daughter. A final punch leaves him knocked out on the ground. However, this violent scene is merely her imagination. As her husband tries to question her, Yi Dao approaches, unaware that he is Yi Rin's husband, thinking he is trying to harass her. Later, Yi Dao calls Yi Rin inside, intending to train her so she can successfully audition. But Yi Rin is completely unresponsive, filled with insecurity as a woman who has made mistakes. After receiving feedback from Yi Dao, she adjusts her mindset, but it's still not enough. With no other option, Yi Dao demonstrates the steps himself. It's clear that a top designer exudes confidence in their stride and gaze. Yi Dao emphasizes that to become a top model, one must fall in love with fashion and integrate it into their identity. Yet Yi Rin seems to fear the clothing. Deep down, she struggles with feelings of inadequacy, believing she isn't fit to be a model and feeling that no one cares about her. As Yi Dao slowly approached, Yi Rin closed her eyes, but he didn't come any closer. Perhaps he didn't want to take advantage of her vulnerability. After wiping away her tears, he left her feeling touched. After this incident, Yi Dao prepared many beautiful outfits for her. When she tried on the clothes in front of the mirror, she was overjoyed, as she had never worn such beautiful outfits before due to her previous weight. That night, lying in bed, she recalled everything that had happened during the day. The next day, Yi Rin successfully regained her confidence. With her newfound poise and a confident smile, she earned the designer's approval. After the event, Yi Rin hurriedly ran outside, only to be spotted by her husband. She rushed to keep up with him, constantly glancing at her watch, realizing that the effects of the weight loss perfume were about to wear off. She quickly entered a mall and chose an oversized dress. In the fitting room, she looked at the time, realizing she had less than a minute left. As she hurried to change, her husband followed her inside. Just as she walked into the fitting room, time was ticking down and the latch got stuck. To make matters worse, her husband was slowly approaching, and when she stepped out of the fitting room, she had reverted back to her 900-pound self, only to find her husband waiting there. In that moment, Yi Rin quickly lowered her head, preparing to avoid him. But then she thought, if I haven't been discovered, why should I run? Her expression suddenly became determined as she swung her bag and rushed over, launching into a tirade at her husband. In the midst of this chaos, Yi Rin unexpectedly fell into someone else's arms. This person was Yi Dao. Yi Rin was momentarily at a loss. As they shared a brief 108 seconds of eye contact, Yi Rin didn't want to face Yi Dao looking like this, so she hurriedly fled. However, Yi Dao recognized her. It turned out that when Yi Dao was a child, he had accidentally fallen into a river while his mother was pregnant. At that moment, a little girl rushed in without hesitation and saved him. That little girl was young Yi Rin. At that instant, Yi Rin had already developed feelings for her. They used to play together often, but on that day, Yi Dao had to say goodbye as he was leaving for Seoul with his parents. Years later, when Yi Dao appeared in front of Yi Rin, she failed to recognize him. Yi Rin still didn't recognize him. At the party, the effect of the perfume only lasts for 12 hours. She looked at her phone and realized the perfume's effect was about to wear off. Yi hurried to the bathroom, planning to apply a drop, when suddenly someone pulled her hair from behind. Fortunately, the perfume didn't spill. It turned out this person was a fan of Min Seok, who believed Yi Rin was trying to seduce him, which is why he agreed to date her. Yi Rin tried to reach for the perfume, but she struck her arm instead. Even worse, she intended to dump the perfume in front of her. Yi Rin let out a distressed sound and she was curious about her reaction. She sniffed the perfume, and when she turned back, Yi Rin had transformed back into her 900-pound self. She was stunned. Yi Rin grabbed her and pulled her into the room. Meanwhile, Yi Dao, who hadn't seen Yi Rin in a long time, was searching for her. He learned from Yi Rin's daughter that Yi Rin had gone to the restroom and hadn't come out since. Yi Dao rushed to the bathroom. Suddenly, all the lights went out, and old fans knew that Yi Rin was starting to transform. When the lights came back on, the girl ran out in a frenzy. Yi Dao entered the bathroom. Yi Dao saw Yi Rin covered in wounds. After this incident, their scandal began to surface. The girlfriend of a big star was getting too close to Yi Dao. To avoid reporters, Yi Dao took Yi Rin to a new house. The next morning, Yi Rin looked at Yi Dao. Soon the manager found them and showed them the news report. Yi Rin was labeled as someone who seduced a rising star and a top designer. The company was also affected, prompting Yi Dao to hold a press conference. He planned to clarify that Yi Rin was just a nanny, but recalling Min Seok's words about Yi Rin improving, he decided to stand by her. In the conference, Yi Dao declared, "Yi Rin is my girlfriend." Clearly he chose Yi Rin over the company. Watching on TV, Yi Rin was moved to tears. After the press conference, Yi Dao rushed to her side and the both accept their love for each other. Feeling overwhelmed, Yi Rin entered a supermarket fully armed. She held a thick stack of newspapers filled with slander about her. Just as she was about to leave, she noticed a crowd gathered around her, all of them Min Seok's fans. One person who witnessed Yi Rin's transformation was ready to expose her in public. The woman appeared to be frightened, her expression very panicked. Even a nearby beggar was startled, lying on the ground as if she had seen a monster. Just a moment ago, she was a stunning beauty. How had she transformed into a 900-pound woman? Yi Rin noticed the beggar, and they exchanged glances. Just before, she had been attending an event. When she returned to the lounge, she discovered her ex-husband was also there. In a hurry, he shoved her phone into his bag but accidentally pulled out Yi Rin's perfume. To avoid being noticed, he quickly stuffed it into his pocket. After the event, Min Seok came to pick up Yi Rin and had prepared a gift for her, a customized hairpin. Just then, Yi Rin's alarm went off. It turned out the perfume's effect was about to expire, and she was about to turn back into a 900-pound woman. But she couldn't find the perfume anywhere. She began to recall that her ex-husband must have taken it. Watching the clock tick, she urgently asked Min Seok to stop the car. After getting out, she rushed into an alley, feeling her body starting to change. Min Seok noticed something was off with Yi Rin and followed her, only to bump into a beggar who fled in a panic. Min Seok thought Yi Rin was in danger, but then he realized the situation was not as it seemed. However, when he saw Yi Rin enter the alley, he looked down and was shocked to find a fat woman there. He panicked and ran out, but then he thought about how pitiable the woman looked. He mustered up the courage to ask the woman if she needed help, but Min Seok didn't realize that this heavyset woman was Yi Rin. Seeing her without shoes and in tattered clothes, Min Seok hurried back to the parking area to get her some shoes and clothes. He then offered her a ride, taking her close to the police station. After they got out, they waved goodbye warmly, but then Min Seok remembered something. It was the hairpin on the woman's head, which he had just put on Yi-rin. How could it be on her? He suddenly felt something was off. This was a magical perfume. Yi-rin's ex-husband had planned to pour it out in front of her. Yi-rin rushed to stop him, but during the struggle, she bumped her head against the wall and instantly fainted. Her ex-husband grew increasingly curious about the secrets hidden in that perfume. He took the bottle and dripped a couple of drops onto Yi-rin's hand. Just then, Yi Dao arrived and knocked the man down. Seeing his first love's face changing, he thought he was imagining things. Suddenly, all the lights in the building went out and thunder rumbled in the sky. When the lights came back on, Yi-rin was nowhere to be found. As the two brothers went downstairs, they found Yi-rin taking photos with fans. Min Seok glanced again at the hairpin on her head and collapsed in shock. That night, Yi-rin secretly snuck back home and took out a box. Looking at the contents, she finally remembered Yi Dao. It turned out this painting was something she had drawn for him when they were children. At that moment, Yi Dao returned and called Yi-rin over, pulling her into a tight embrace. Although Yi-rin recalled everything and understood all the sacrifices she had made for him, including saving his life as a child, she still didn't tell him, "Your first love is actually me." Suddenly, there was a noise outside the door. It was Min Seok. Without saying a word, he hurriedly ran upstairs. Back in his room, he reflected on the hairpin he had personally given to Yi-rin and how it ended up on the head of a heavyset woman. Now it was back on Yi-rin's head. He felt like he was losing his mind. He still couldn't believe it, thinking that a good night's sleep would solve everything. In his dreams, he and Yi-rin held a wedding. Just as they were about to kiss, he found that Yi-rin had turned into a heavyset woman. That day, Yi Dao received an email from his first love, which made him very happy. He fixed his hairstyle, wore a handsome suit, and even booked a high-end restaurant. Just as he was about to confess, she realized the perfume had already caused side effects and her health was deteriorating day by day. So she asked him to stay away from her. Yi-rin intended to tell Yi Dao that she was his first love, but her body felt wrong. She pushed Yi Dao away, realizing that her condition was worsening. Whether as the heavy-set Yi-rin or the slender Yi-rin, she was on the brink of death. That day, Yi-rin found Jing Mai-shu to explain her situation. The only person who knew her secret felt guilt and regret. He suggested checking the source of the perfume, as they might find clues from the delivery company used by the courier. As the perfume was running out, they couldn't find any information about the delivery company online. However, the secretary had a lead. The two of them went to the courier office but learned that the company had gone bankrupt 20 years ago. Based on the address, they found the old man's residence. When they saw the old man, Yi-rin remembered that he was the one who had delivered the perfume. They were both overjoyed, but the old man's wife revealed that he had long been suffering from dementia and hadn't delivered anything. With their last hope shattered, Yi-rin only wanted to fulfill her modeling dream and planned to leave after participating in Fashion Week. Back at home, she confessed to Yi Dao that she had been close to him to become a top model and that everything she did was for her own benefit. After hearing this, Yi Dao packed his bags and decided to move to a hotel. What he didn't know was that Yi-rin had her reasons for saying all this. From then on, even when they met at the company, they treated each other like strangers. One day, while in the dressing room, Yi-rin's body sent her a warning signal. She hurriedly took out a tissue but didn't expect her husband to find her there. This man was out of control. He pushed her against the wall, and she instantly fainted. He then put her in the car, intending to take her to a secluded place. This scene happened to be witnessed by Yi-rin's daughter, who quickly hopped into a taxi to follow them. During the ride, she called Yi Dao to inform him that her father had taken Yi-rin away. Upon hearing the news, Yi Dao rushed over. The man had taken Yi-rin to the company, and the daughter spotted her father's car but found the doors locked and couldn't get in. Just then, Yi Dao arrived, grabbed a chair, and smashed the glass a few times. Just as the man was about to succeed, Yi Dao burst in and knocked him unconscious. He then carried Yi-rin to the hospital but soon found it increasingly difficult to do so. He noticed Yi-rin's body was gradually expanding until he could no longer lift her. To his astonishment, he realized Yi-rin had transformed into his first love. Staring at this scene, he was utterly dumbfounded. After putting Yi-rin in the car, he looked at his first love and decided to step out for a moment to collect his thoughts. Unexpectedly, Yi-rin seized the chance to try to escape. At the intersection, she coincidentally ran into Min Seok, but to avoid Yi Dao, she jumped into Min Seok's car. Looking at the large woman beside him, he hesitantly asked if she was Yi-rin transformed. From that point on, she had to confess to Min Seok that she was indeed Yi-rin. However, she didn't have time to explain, as she needed to get back to the modeling agency to find the perfume. However, she searched the wardrobe but couldn't find the perfume. She suspected that the secretary had taken it. Meanwhile, Yi Dao was completely frantic. He was caught between the person he loved now and his first love. One had cruelly abandoned him, while the other had failed to recognize him for 20 years. What was even more frightening was that he had been rejected by two women who were, in fact, the same person. Yi Rin reached the secretary and confessed to him everything. This was all due to a magical perfume. She had dripped 2 drops on her wrist, and with a wave, a 900-pound person transformed into a 90-pound beauty amid thunder and lightning. Yi Dao witnessed this transformation, and holding Yi Rin, he didn't care whether she was his plump first love or the current Yi Lin. He accepted her as she was. He then pulled the secretary aside. The secretary confessed everything, explaining that there was a reason for the secrecy. Once Yi Rin's perfume ran out, she would leave this world, which was why she had been cold towards Yi Dao. Yi Dao brought Yi Rin home, and, just as she was about to use the perfume again, he stopped her, saying that if she used it up, she would die, and he didn't want her to do that. No matter what she became, he would always love her. Touched, Yi Rin decided not to use the perfume anymore. But just then, her alarm went off. She was about to transform. Although the transformation left them both feeling a bit awkward, they faced it together. Yi Rin no longer needed to go to work and became a full-time housewife. Yi Dao, determined to find the same perfume, consulted experts but still had no leads. He even brought his mother, who brought a mountain of perfumes, but that too ended in failure. When Yi Rin learned that they hadn't found the perfume, she wasn't too disappointed. She just felt that such miracles might not happen for her again. However, seeing Yi Dao so dedicated, she didn't want to say too much. Just then, Yi Rin suddenly fainted. This faint lasted for several days, and Yi Dao stayed by her side, waiting for her to wake up. One night, he picked up the bottle of perfume and noticed the inscription. Suddenly, he remembered something. This perfume could bring someone back to life. He opened it and dripped 2 drops onto her hand. Immediately, a purple mist filled the air, and thunder rumbled. In an instant, she transformed from the plump woman into the appearance she had 20 years ago and successfully awakened. Years ago, as young Yi Dao was about to get up and head home, he noticed a glowing house not far away. Driven by curiosity, he went to investigate and discovered it was a miraculous perfume workshop. The owner was the old man who had delivered the perfume to Yi Rin. After smelling the perfume, Yi Dao had an idea. He wanted to personally create a bottle of perfume to give to his beloved Yi Rin. He even wrote a love note on the label. He handed the featherstone to the old man and asked him to include it in the perfume. The old man asked Yi Dao about his intention behind making this bottle of perfume. Yi Dao lowered his head and silently made a wish. He hoped Yi Rin would fall in love with him. This was the origin of the perfume. But both of them were worried about what would happen once the perfume ran out. Yi Dao remembered the cause of everything. Now that they knew the origin of the perfume, they decided to visit the workshop from 20 years ago to find the old man and uncover the truth. Filled with hope, they arrived only to find that the place had changed drastically after 2 decades. Yi Dao began to cry, unsure if Yi Rin would really leave him once the perfume was gone. They agreed to spend every moment together in the time they had left. That night, unable to sleep, Yi Dao held a pillow and was about to knock on Yi Rin's door, but hesitated, fearing he would disturb her. Fortunately, Yi Rin was having the same thought. They looked at each other and instantly felt joy, moving closer like children. The next day, the World Fashion Week finally arrived. Yi Rin's lifelong dream was to walk the runway in a dress designed by Yi Dao. This was a promise they made since childhood. Yi Rin dropped 2 drops of the perfume, uncertain if the remaining amount would last another week. Just then, a furious ex-husband burst in. Ex-husband had embezzled funds and mistakenly thought Yi Rin had reported him. Yi Dao had come to find Yi Rin and rushed in upon hearing the commotion. Seeing the ex-husband confronting Yi Rin, he was angry, but as he watched him take the perfume, he tried to smooth things over. The ex-husband didn't care about Yi Rin's fate. Amidst the glass shattered on the floor, both men felt devastated. As the ex-husband ran out, he was apprehended by the arriving police. The perfume could have lasted another week, but now it was all gone. Fortunately, Yi Rin had already used some, giving them 12 hours of safety, enough time to get through Fashion Week. But Yi Dao had no mind for Fashion Week anymore. After the kidnapping incident, their daughter learned that Yi Rin was her mother. She took out a USB drive and said it contained evidence of her father's crimes, unsure if she should take this step. Yi Rin, however, didn't share the news about her impending departure from life. She simply told her daughter that if she ever faced difficulties, she could seek help from Yi Dao and his assistant. Her eyes were filled with love and reluctance. The daughter was puzzled by why her mother would say such things but didn't press further. Dressed in Yi Dao's clothing, Yi Dao felt that the dream they shared was about to begin. Yi Dao told Yi Rin that she had two dreams. One was for her to walk the runway in his designs, and the second would be revealed after Fashion Week. Unbeknownst to her, delaying that second dream might mean never having the chance to express it. For Yi Rin, the events of recent times had left her feeling fulfilled. She cherished the beautiful moments spent with her loved ones and stood proudly with her daughter on the Fashion Week stage. Watching her daughter excel made Yi Rin feel immensely gratified. She had fulfilled her childhood promise to Yi Dao and realized her dream of becoming a top model. After the show, Yi Dao entered the hall, revealing that her second dream was to propose to Yi Rin. He happily took out his phone to call Yi Rin to the hall, but 12 hours had already passed, and she was unaware of what might happen next. As she prepared to find Yi Dao, she opened the door, and a blinding white light poured in. The light grew increasingly intense, and Yi Rin gradually began to disappear into it. Suddenly, she found herself transported, completely bewildered, and there stood an old man, the delivery man from before. She realized she was in the same perfume workshop from 20 years ago. The old man revealed the truth. Months earlier, when Yi Rin had chosen to end her life, she had died. However, the heavens, seeing the bond between them, gave her another chance. That's why the old man had delivered the perfume to her and arranged their fateful meeting. He asked her to return back. Just as Yi Rin prepared to return to Yi Dao, the old man asked her a question: can you truly live confidently this time? Would you not care about your overweight body, not mind others' opinions, and bravely be with him? Meanwhile, Yi Dao, devastated by Yi Rin's disappearance, contemplated suicide by eating walnuts. Fortunately, his mother arrived just in time to stop him from that tragic decision. Yi Dao, heartbroken, lamented. What's the meaning of living without Yi Rin? His mother comforted him, saying that Yi Rin had only vanished and might return after a while. If she comes back and finds you gone, that would be the true tragedy. Upon hearing this, Yi Dao felt immense comfort, becoming his sole reason to keep living. In the following days, he, who had never cooked before, began to learn how to cook, as if Yi Rin had never disappeared and was still by his side. He lived optimistically, believing that Yi Rin would return one day. A year later, on Yi Dao's birthday, he received a birthday gift from Yi Rin. It turned out to be a gift she had sent out a year ago, knowing she might not live to see today. Yi Dao reflected on the past with deep sorrow. One day, he returned to the planetarium. Once a skeptic, he began to sincerely pray for Yi Rin's swift return. Just then, a figure appeared behind him. It was Yi Lin. During the year apart, she had been working hard to regain her confidence, all to return to Yi Dao. At that moment, Yi Dao's feelings were beyond words. The year of waiting for both of them finally ended, leading to a beautiful reunion. Thanks for watching. Please like and drop a heart if you like the story.